Hello, I'm Bruce Fummey and welcome to today's episode of This Day in Scottish History. I'm not going to focus on a particular date today. Now, for some of you that might come as a disappointment, for some of you that might be a delight. But let's face it, Scotland's always been divided. There's a cultural divide in Scotland. If you go up to the Highlands, the Islands, Skye, places like that, you ask the average guy in the street, does he see himself as a Scot? Or does he see himself as a Highland Gael? The average guy in the street will say, I don't know mate, I'm from Kent. That's a fact. It seems to me like just about every tourism business in the Highlands is run and owned by somebody from the south of England. I was in the beautiful West Highland village of Applecross recently, and the English landlady of the pub was ridiculing the Gaelic language. Bruce Fummey was fuming. And you might say, but Bruce, your dad came all the way from West Africa to sow his wild oats in Scotland. And yes, my dad was a very enthusiastic farmer. But there's a difference between immigration and colonisation. My dad left a genetic mark, but he left the culture and the psyche of Scotland intact. And I say that as I stand in front of a statue of our national bard, Robert Burns. Princes Street is that way, George Street is that way. About 50 yards in that direction there's a Scottish shop selling tartan trinkets. Last week there was a graduation procession led by a pipe band. So it goes without saying, we're in New Zealand. Can't you just smell the irony? So my question to you is, what town in New Zealand do you think we're in? So the Gaels have been supplanted by the English. Many Scots speak with an English accent, and the only thing that was missing from Brigadoon was a haka. Seems like a topsy-turvy world, and just the place to talk about the Highland Clearances. Now, if you're not already familiar with the picture, lands were being cleared of people to make way for more productive and profitable sheep, and Highland tenants were burned out their crofts, put on boats and sent to Canada. And you might say, yeah, but when they were here, they were nothing but a bunch of Highland sheep shaggers. Yes, but they got on boats, they crossed an ocean, and they built an entire nation of moose fuckers. That's right, they fuck mice in Canada. Every December, there are 14-year-old boys going, Dad, can I have a gerbil for Christmas? No, you broke the last one, now shut it. I meet Canadians, Americans, Australians, and here in New Zealand, both white people and Maori people who proudly talk about the fact that they have some Scottish ancestry. In Scotland, we say that we're all Jock Tamson's bairns, but don't tell the child support agency. The thing about these people who speak so proudly about their ancestors is that they're the descendants of survivors. The people that died in the process of the Highland Clearances, the people that succumbed to disease on ships in an ocean, the people that froze in a harsh Canadian winter, they're all too easily forgotten, as are the indigenous people that so often displaced. So imagine you're standing in front of a Highland croft, chill in your bones and tears in your eyes. Tears not just because of the emotions of finding yourself homeless and penniless without a welfare state, but because the smoke billowing from the house that you called home stings your eyes as well as your heart. You have very few possessions beside you. Most of what you own is burning. Because when the local land factor came to light the blue touch paper that would launch the rest of your life, you made the use of your time to carry your mother out in a sick bed as the flames licked and the smoke gripped. This happened. And I'm not suggesting that every Highlander was burnt out of his croft. I'm not suggesting that everyone went to Canada. I'm not asking you to believe that the Highland Clearances was one season of pitiless evictions to make way for sheep. It was a 100-year process. You see, south of the border, common land had been enclosed so that powerful people could control it and rent it to press peasants from a rural into a municipal lifestyle, and that had been happening for ages. It's kind of forgotten about in history. They got away with it. In a divided Scotland, where clan culture was to be crushed and oceans were transportable, it was done in plain sight. In 83 AD was the first battle recorded on Scottish soil, where northern tribespeople, people that lived in tight-knit kinship groups, put aside their differences and joined together to fight under their leader Culgacus against the Roman Empire. 1,700 years later, northern clanspeople that lived in tight-knit kinship groups put aside their differences and stood together against the new empire. In the lowlands in the south, people had succumbed long before. They had been anglicised. In the Campbell lands of the Duke of Argyll, the people still spoke the native tongue, but the clan leaders were trying to keep up with the Joneses. Instead of trustees of the land owned by their kinship group, they saw themselves as landlords, renting out the clan land to their brothers, their sisters and their cousins. That is the root of the Highland Clearances. The thing is, if you see yourself as a landlord, then your focus is not the people of the kin group, the people that you, like Culgacus, were supposed to lead and protect. Your focus is on the rent that those clan lands will yield. And maybe you have debt caused by the fact that you're trying to live the lifestyle of your southern neighbours. And it might be that you can clear that debt if you can just make your lands more efficient, if you can be more productive by replacing your cousins with sheep and modern farming techniques. Yeah? The thing is, you're not just replacing humans with sheep, you're also replacing your Highland lifestyle with modern capitalism. And as you sit in your London or your Edinburgh townhouse, maybe you believe that the benefits of this new system justify your people being uprooted to make a new life across an ocean. After all, if they'd just given in to the Romans, they would have already had flat screen tellies. But these crofters can't see the big picture because it's fixed to their living room wall as it burns to the ground. Now, before the worst excesses of these acts of social engineering and ethnic cleansing and financial reconstruction, people had been moving to the cities and the coasts. This wasn't acts of a post-colonial summer. It was a multifaceted process that took 100 years and many stages. Was there an attempt to extirpate the Gaelic language and culture from the Highlands? Yes, there was. But there was also the opportunism of clan leaders who sought to enrich themselves at the expense of their kinspeople, who hoped to legally secure private property from what had been communal land. It was a prioritisation of personal greed over the common good. Now, this wasn't unique to this period in Scottish history. It wasn't only in Sutherland. It wasn't just the Campbell Dukes of Argyll. It was Fred Goodwin in the RBS. It's corporations who enjoy the benefit of public services but avoid paying taxes. It's people who salt away money in Panama tax havens or offshore accounts. And you might not have worried about the Panama Papers because you smoke Rizla. But the Highland condition is the human condition. It's been replicated many times over all continents. People gain riches or status, often by luck or inheritance, but they feel justified in extending those riches at the expense of those that have not. And maybe you live in one of those ex-British colonies and you're proud of your Scottish heritage, and I'm delighted. Let's celebrate the Scottish diaspora. And I know you speak with a funny accent and you carry a different passport, but you also carry the genes of the Highland survivors. Not everyone made it, particularly Aboriginal Australians, Native American Indians and others that were displaced along the way. And now you're watching a video blog about Scottish history from a guy that looks like me and yet talks like this. It's a topsy-turvy world. There's a difference between immigration and colonisation, and there's a difference between emigration and clearance. And we Scots have experienced it all, you and me. I mean, Dochas can be Lama Live, Cheery and Drastic.